everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the new me with the major haircut, which got rid of the remaining straight perm that I had, which leaves my natural hair, which is very curly. It's a new look. It's not a look I'm used to, so I'll probably be touching my hair a lot, just to let you know, and also trying to avoid the sun in my face. Today I wanted to go over what the end of the year could potentially look like in terms of my reading. It turns out that I have started quite a few books and put down those books and never picked them back up. I have a lot of these books, and some of these I do want to have finished by the end of the year. Is it feasible? I have no idea, but it's a lot. I don't know. Let's start with the books that I am actually actively reading. Like I haven't put these down at all. They're just in the current rotation. I have my at-work lunch book, which is 暗いところで待ち合わせ by Otsuichi. This is just a little thriller horror kind of story. Basically, this man sneaks into a blind woman's home when he is being chased by the police because allegedly he pushed a coworker in front of a train and the coworker died. So he is being chased down for being a potential murderer, and so he sneaks into this blind woman's house, and the book is about the blind woman slowly realizing that something is off in her home. So it's about that. This is a book I picked up because this is the part of the year where I start to panic about the fact that I haven't read anything in Japanese for the majority of the year. That it's the book I pick up because Otsuichi is very easy to read, and so if I can just go through this, then that gets me back into the practice of reading, and maybe I can tackle something else before the end of the year and maybe fit in at least one more novel. So this isn't my active work at lunch read and then like end of the day read when I'm done with everything and there's really nothing else to do. So I'm about halfway through with this. It's going well, so I do foresee finishing this. So I don't think this will be a problem. The next actively reading book is La Reine Margot, the Queen Margot by Dumas. I should say that this book has been translated and it's called Waiting in the Dark in English. So I need to remember that not everyone can speak these languages. So the other book that I'm reading is La Reine Margot by Dumas, the Queen Margot by Dumas. This is the very first book of the Valois romances series. There are 3 books in that series. This is actually a reread for me. I read this back in 2012 for the first time. I didn't have much of a memory of it. Just kings and queens involved in conspiracy and scheming and backstabbing and fighting for the throne, that kind of thing. That's about all I could remember. Upon reading this, it's still very like, it's a very hazy memory where I reach a scene and I'm like, yes, that is familiar. But it's not familiar enough to where I can predict what will happen. I mean, other than the fact that this is based on a real historical moment and real historical figures. But I mean, it is Alexandre Dumas, and the historical figures will always reach the end that they reached realistically, but there are fictional characters involved or characters written quite fictionally, and so you never know what could happen. So this is my at-work reading on PDF book. I do know I own the physical copy, but this is I am reading this via PDF at work, so that since I do chemistry and I work on behind a computer pretty much all day, and chemistry has a lot of downtime, that's when I pulled out a PDF to read, paragraph here, paragraph there, page there. Lately work has been quite slow, so it's been pages here and there, which makes this a quite fast and easy read. I have about I don't quite know where I'm at because I'm reading this via PDF. I probably have about 200 or so pages, but this is an active read. my PDF at work reads always go quite smoothly, so this will be finished before the end of the year for sure. The other actively being read book is called Monstrueux. It's the French translation of Grotesque by Natsuo Kirino. This is a Japanese suspense thriller book. I started reading this in August for the fall vibes. Everyone else is reading thrillers. I don't read thrillers that often, very rarely, actually, maybe one or two a year, if even that. But I also wanted to feel the fall vibes and whatnot. I'm on page 436 out of 700, and this is the only one. This one I'm reading at home, and this one I haven't been making as much progress because I've kind of been testing out a new schedule at home where I can fit in both sports and the violin, and it's been very exciting and it's been very successful so far. But there has been what am I trying to say? It has made me slow down with the progress in terms of reading this book. But it's interesting so far. Like, it does seem maybe longer than it needs to be because we haven't really touched on the primary thriller aspect of the book. So kind of confused about that, but I'm sure it'll pick up speed quite momentarily, and once that happens, it'll just be like speeding through till the end. So those are the 3 actively reading books. I'm very confident those will all be done by the end of the year for sure. I mean, those books will be done in November. Those are my November reads for sure. Now, the next book is the book I most desire to have read by the end of the year. This is the book called Le Roman de la Cité Interdite, which is the novel of the Forbidden City, written by the Japanese author Asada Jirō. So this is a Japanese author writing about a moment in Chinese history, and this is the translated French version. Now, this is a very thick book, as you can see. It's 1,200 pages. And this is a book that I started back in July, and I was speeding through this. I was fascinated because it's right up the alley in terms of what I've been reading via nonfiction. But I had read about 350 pages, which is, a good third of the book, quarter of the book, and I was really into it. But the thing is that I was leaving on vacation to France for the holidays, and I didn't want to bring this book with me. One, I purchased this book in France. It had already been purchased in France. It had already been taken back to Japan, and I did not want to take that book again from Japan to France and then take it back again from France to Japan. So I just wanted to avoid that. It's also quite heavy. When I go to France, I bring a lot of stuff home. My suitcases are always on the brink of being overweight. So this was something I didn't want to take with me. So I put it down, and because of that, almost 3 weeks in France, and then I come back and I still had more summer vacation, good summer trips, and then I started reading other things and I got distracted. Then I came back to this book. I read another good chunk of pages, but then I put it down again, and it's just been off and on, start stop for quite a while. I am very close to the end though. I'm 150 pages. It's a sliver of what's left. I have really been picking this up, and this is just one of those books that I've been milking it for so long and almost dragging it along for too long that I want this to be done. I want to know how, obviously, again, this is historical fiction. So just like the Dumas book, you know how it ends. I've read the nonfiction. I know how this ends. I know what happens. But I want to see how the author brings together the ending of all of these characters. So this needs to be read by the end of the year. Another book that I started in the summer, and I actually started while I was in France on that vacation, is this mystery book. And let me take off the protective cover. This is a book I haven't talked about yet because I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to do the whole booktuber thing and shock you guys with oh my goodness, I read this and you had no idea I was reading it. I'm just not good at that kind of booktube stuff. Apparently, it's not me. But I wanted to surprise you guys with this book. Let's get it out of the sun. This is Sayaka Murata's newest book released in Japanese. Okay, so while you guys are reading the English translation of Vanishing World, which just came out this year, while you guys are reading that, she came out with a new book, and this came out back in March. So I purchased this pretty much the day it came out, and this is actually a 2-volume book. It's 800 pages long. It's her longest work other. It's called Sekai Kyūjū-gyū, so World 99 or 99 Worlds, but mostly World 99. And so this is a hefty book to read, and I was reading this very easily, very pleasantly in France. However, the contents of the book are quite dark at this point. I'm on page 132. The contents of the book were quite hard, were quite heavy and quite emotionally, I wouldn't say draining. It was not draining to that point, but it was touching on a lot of things that I have experienced in Japan, and that I've been very frustrated about, but also have been frustrated about for other people who have experienced these things, especially women. This book is all about women and sort of interactions with men so far. So it's been sort of more of a mentally challenging read versus just like maybe the Japanese has been hard. The Japanese isn't that difficult, but in terms of story, in terms of plot, it's quite mentally challenging. Sayaka Murata herself in an interview said this was her most difficult book to read thus far. Now, I didn't want to know more about this book, so I put the interview away. So I don't know if she means most difficult in terms of because it's very lengthy, it took her a long time to do, or if it meant difficult because it was emotionally challenging, or was it difficult because she didn't know where the story was going. I don't know exactly what she means by difficult yet. I'll have to rewatch the interview and then watch the remaining part of the interview to get more details. But yeah, I was so excited about the idea of showing up and giving you guys a video of Sayaka Murata's newest book in Japanese, but I just never got to it. I just came home from France and then I never picked it up again because again I started reading other things, so I got distracted and there we go. But I don't know how realistic it would be to read both volumes by the end of the year, let's be honest. Like I said, it is 800 pages. I'm only on page 130. It is a quick read, but again, it's the mentally difficult part that makes it more of a strange read. But Sayaka Murata is fantastic, and I do want to read this. So we'll see. We'll just see. We'll see what happens. All right. Now I have something that I came to the realization, and it's gonna be like I lied to you guys many months ago. I realized that I actually never finished Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown. I found my bookmark at page 372 and there are 440 pages. So I only have 70 pages left in this book, but I remembered that I actually haven't finished this book. And the reason I haven't finished this book is because the month came around to do the monthly wrap up. And the thing is that reading this book in tandem with all the other books that I was reading that month, it created this weird sort of connecting vibe, connecting tissue, where like everything sort of like my emotions of reading this book were really affecting the emotions that I had reading the other books. And so because of that, when I did the monthly wrap up, I also wrapped this book up, forgetting the fact that I hadn't actually finished it. So I do want to finish this before the end of the year. I won't do another wrap up of it again because there's really no need to do that. The way this is set up, technically me not having finished it yet doesn't really affect my reading of it. It just means there's one particular tribe that I haven't read the full story yet. But because this book is just set up where you just read about certain tribes and you see what ordeal they went with and basically how their civilization was destroyed by white settlers, and then just basically the general white population in the US at the time. I basically know the ending story of the last tribe that is being discussed in this book, but I still want to finish reading this because this book deserves to be read from the beginning till the end. So that needs to get done. Okay, so then maybe you guys will remember, I'm not too sure. I know there's one book I've mentioned a few times, and the other book I didn't mention at all, I believe. So the book that I mentioned several times was Weep Not Child by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, or at least I'm pretty sure I mentioned this. I read Ngugi wa Thiong'o's book, The Valley in Between, or The River Between. So The River Between, I read that the previous year, and it was a beautiful, absolutely stunning book, and I really wanted to read another book by this author, and I got about halfway through, but the entire time I was reading this, I was really struggling with it, not because of anything the author does or the plot or anything like this, but it's just this world is so far removed from what I've been reading recently. Like I'm usually in Japan, I'm usually reading about China, I'm usually reading about like 19th century France. And so to be reading about Kenya all of a sudden in the middle of all that, I just couldn't connect. I couldn't make the mental switch to an entirely different continent, to another entirely different lifestyle with very different issues than the issues that I've been reading, that I was reading at the time. So this is very much a situation of right book, just the wrong time. So right now I still feel that way quite a bit. So to be honest, I think this is a book I'm going to abandon and maybe read just next year when it feels more appropriate to the mindset that I am in. So this one, not likely to finish this year, but very likely to pick up again in the future and try again and reread it from the beginning. So currently reading, but it's been set aside way too long at this point, so very doubtful. Then this is a book I definitely have not mentioned I was reading, because this as well was a book that I kind of wanted to surprise people, because I wanted to make a video talking about this author's works. I've read the majority of their works, pretty much all of them, just missing basically like 2 or 3, and I wanted to get to the point where I could do a full-on author spotlight. That author is Kobo Abe, and the book is The Rune Map. So I got really far into this book. My bookmark is at page 167, and there are 299 pages. So I've read 2/3 of the book, more or less. And I have to be honest, this is another book where Kobo Abe is very difficult to read. He is an author where his main theme is basically individuals versus society mainly being Japanese society, but you could, I don't think it's as limited to just Japan, but his books are very much about the theme of individual versus society, but also individual versus self. So typically the protagonist has done something and they are having to deal with either the consequences or the repercussions of their actions and their feelings on their actions. And basically they spend the novel trying to solve an issue without realizing that they are the cause of that issue, or they're the person that they are investigating. So reading Kobo Abe's works, for his more difficult reads, it's actually quite important to know what his themes are so you can parse through the text, because his books will start off quite calm and quite normal, but then they go into this sort of like paranoid, high frenzy, thrilling pace where everything, you don't know what's real and what's fake and what is sort of truly happening. It just goes frantic and wild. And again, this is a book that, even though I'm familiar with those themes and whatnot, because the book was so different from what I was reading at the time, because if you compare this to reading Zola, right, or Victor Hugo, which is what I was reading at the time, it's a huge mental switch to make between the two writing styles. So this is a book, I don't know what's going to happen by the end of the year, because the thing is about Kobo Abe that's also very important is to, when you're reading the book, it's to stay within the book. You want to stay in the world, and you want to continue riding that wave with the character, because as soon as you jump off, the character is going to leave without you. And I think that's already happened. I did try reading like 10 pages recently to put myself back in the book, and it wasn't working. And I'm afraid I'm probably gonna have to abandon this and try again another time, and again start from the very beginning. It's unfortunate, but I'm pretty sure that's probably gonna be what happens. So technically I was currently reading this behind the scenes, but I don't see myself finishing it. Okay, so then more books behind the scenes that you guys didn't know about. I did start Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This is the third out of the 4 Chinese classics, major Chinese classics to be read. I've read 2 of them. I wanted to continue my journey of reading a major Chinese classic per year. I got to page 200 on this book, but this is a 2-volume book. So this 700 pages for this volume, and then 700 pages in the second volume. So the issue with this one is that I started reading this, and while I was enjoying going back into a major Chinese epic, the translation is super dry. It's very dry. And just as I had started reading this, I came to discover that just maybe a year prior, or maybe 2 years ago, there's a new translation out. Penguin Classics brought out a new translation. And so now I'm questioning myself, should I just abandon the Title Classics translation and read the Penguin Classics translation? So I am struggling with that decision, which is kind of annoying because this book I've owned since 2009. I've owned this book since 2009. I bought the Title Classics edition in 2009. I've been carrying this with me this entire time. And for me to abandon it just to get a new edition, kind of, I don't even really want to think about it, to be honest. So I'm still making that decision whether I make the leap to the new translation. In any case, though, this book is so long, I do not foresee myself finishing it this year. So this is the book that I did start with behind the scenes, but I'm pretty sure you won't see it again this year. So sorry about that. Another book that I was reading behind the scenes that you guys might or might not have known about it. That book is At Dawn We Slept, The Untold Story of Pearl Harbor. This is a nonfiction book that I bought this in 2018. Earlier, 2017, I believe I bought this. I started reading it in 2018. And because it's very heavy, very dense, super dense. I mean, this is known even in Japan, Japanese historians, this is known as the quintessential, the Bible for Pearl Harbor history. This is the author is Gordon W. Prange's master opus, basically, but it's very dense. It's pure military history, which is something I don't read as often, while I do read quite a history now. This is full-on military history. It's about stratagem and battles and who is discussing who with what and how, and the progression of the plans, and all of the messages that were going back and forth, all the little switches and changes. So I'm on page. So I started reading that in 2018. Put it down because it was so dense, and then but I've like never let go of the idea of reading this book because it is very, despite being very dense and despite my lack of experience reading military history, at least at this massive a challenge, or that's not the word I'm looking for, but I did put it down. But yeah, I never abandoned the idea that I still really wanted to read it because it's fascinating. This is so good. And this book, I mean, you can bend it in every direction and nothing's gonna happen. Gotta love that. So everything about this book, super enamored. So behind the scenes, I started the book again. So the previous time I'd gotten to page 200, this time I started the book all over again from page 1, started reading it again, super fascinating, but again, super dense. This is not a book you can just binge read. Like maximum 20 pages a day is all I can manage with this book before I have to put it down and do something else. But I got to page 300. I got to page 300 out of a book that is 866 pages long. But I'm on page 300 and Pearl Harbor hasn't even happened yet. I'm telling you, Pearl Harbor has not happened yet. I'm still in the planning of Pearl Harbor. I'm still very much in the planning stages. When does Pearl Harbor actually begin in this book? Like the actual day. Like I'm still within the prelude. So let's find out. I'm on page 300. Oh, wow. Oh no, wow. I'm almost there. I just discovered I'm on the very last, when I left off, I'm on the very last chapter before the action happens. I was right there. I've been reading like the planning of Pearl Harbor this entire time, and I'm only like 6 pages away from the actual Pearl Harbor day. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to get back to this. But I have accepted the fact that, again, this is not a binge read. This is not something, unless you're a huge history lover, a huge military history lover, unless this is the type of book you read every single day. Maybe you're one of those like Gettysburg Address kind of experts who have to memorize everything to pass like the most difficult exam ever. Maybe you're one of those levels. I'm not, nowhere close. So yeah, for me, this is not a binge read. So I've accepted the fact that this is a multi-month project, maybe a multi-year project, but this will get done. And now that I know that I'm only a chapter away from the actual day, now I'm just embarrassed and I think I have to go back to reading this book. But like, I wish I could show you like this book and Romance of the Three Kingdoms have been by my bedside for so long that they are both, they both lost this color. So both of these books were this bright orange color, right? So the spine, bright orange color, which is really annoying because this is volume 1 of this book and volume 2 is nice and safe out of the sun. And I have a feeling that if I do continue with the this book, I'm gonna have to like purposely put volume 2 out in the sun so that they can match on my bookshelves. Gosh, it's so, I discovered the sun damage on so many of my books. Look at Margot. Look at this sun damage. It's disgusting. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. Like, hate it. Anyway, this is not a read by the end of the year type of task, but I will get back to this, and eventually when I do talk about it, you guys will know about it. And anyway, once I finish reading this book, that will be the day that I do a video about book recommendations for Japan during World War II. So someday eventually you can look forward to that, but I have been waiting to finish that book to make that video. So anyway, another book behind the scenes that you guys don't know about is that I had started reading this little poetry collection by Arthur Rimbaud. This is Une saison en enfer. This is basically the only sort of poetry book that he actually published, but he is so famous. Everyone studies this at school. It's only like 50 pages long or something. It's very, very short. But I'm not used to reading poetry. This was something I wanted to try that's very different. And this is actually quite difficult. I kind of feel like I need a French teacher to like help me parse through this. I've been watching YouTube videos about people trying to analyze it, but all the videos have been absolutely terrible and so surface level where it's like, yeah, I got that. Like, that, I got it. But it's just like Arthur Rimbaud, it's like, it's his poetry, it's a type of poetry you can't really read unless you know his personal history, which, yeah, once you know his personal history, it's like, okay, the poetry does make a lot of sense. But I think I kind of prefer poetry where you don't need to know anything about the author to make sense of what of their work. But anyway, I don't know about this, we'll see, but there's that. Okay, something else that this is going back to something I definitely need to finish by the end of the year. This is just ridiculous. If you recall, I was reading a soccer manga back in the spring. I had purchased a 49 volume series at the local used bookstore because every year up to now I read a new soccer series. That's just my thing. I love soccer manga, and I have a really fabulous, to say so myself, a very fabulous soccer manga collection, and it's my pride and joy. And this year I wasn't quite too sure what I wanted to read, and I didn't really like, I have some soccer manga that's unread at my home, but I wasn't really like thinking that's what I want to read right now. So I went out and bought an entire differently new but used series, and I was actively reading it and I was enjoying it, and then I just put it down one day and I haven't gotten back to it, and that was like many months ago. And so I left off, I finished volume 35 and I needed to read volumes 36 through 49. So I have 14 volumes left, and I need to read this before the end of the year. I refuse to not have read this by the end of the year, especially since I made the rule this year that I could not buy manga. I just could not buy manga. And if I were to do so, it could only be continuations of manga I already owned and were actively reading. So that's Gokushifudo and Yotsubato. So let me show you. Let's see. Like, other than the series, the only other manga I've bought this year are the latest 2 volumes of Gokushifudo. This came out like just last week actually, which is why it's still in its plastic, but this just came out last week. And then Yotsubato had a surprise release this year. Yotsubato is an old cherished series, but the manga artist just doesn't actively work on it. He doesn't really publish anything. Like, so now like there'll be 1 volume published every 4 years, and it just happened that this got released this year. So when I saw it, I was like, you know, I had to buy it. So my rule was like, other than these like exceptions that happen, like if I were to buy manga, I need to read it this year, because my manga TBR is so ridiculous that I cannot allow it to go in the wrong direction. So I need to finish this by the end of the year. This is a non-negotiable. This needs to be done. And then as a bonus, if I could, it would be really nice to read these, because then I could say I read everything I bought this year in terms of manga. But we'll see what happens with those. But the soccer manga is absolutely non-negotiable. All right, we're almost reaching the end. I didn't realize I had so much to talk about. There is a Japanese book that maybe some of you guys remember that I was reading at the beginning of the year, and then it just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. That book is To naり町戦争. To naり町戦争is a book that this is just like the At Dawn We Slept, where this is a book I tried reading a long time ago, around 2015, 2016. When I first purchased this book, I had tried to read this. It was a little bit too difficult for me at the time, but the story itself was absolutely fascinating, like crazy good. And so I always wanted to reread it. So this year it was my ambition to restart this. At this point, this should be an easier read at my Japanese level. But I just continued to drag along with this book, despite it being so good. I don't know what my mental thing is against this book, that I just can't get through it. So I'm on page 148. That's where I left off last time. This is actually a book though that I do know exactly where I left off. Unlike some of the other books where like I left off and now they've been put away for so long that I couldn't get back into the book. This I can get back into really easily. That's not the issue. It's just sitting down and actually finishing this book. So I'm on page 148 out of 260. So I only have about like 110 pages left. This is very feasible for the end of the year. And at this point, I'm so annoyed at myself for not having finished this yet that this is like, I think this will get like a top priority for this year in terms of like, okay, this is ridiculous. Let's stop dragging this along. I need to finish this. This will probably be read more likely than the Sayaka Murata, unfortunately. But, you know, maybe I get super inspired and then I just finish everything, and that'd be really, 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 really cool. Another thing that this next book, I put it back on my shelves. I started rereading it again because this is another book that I reread it when it first came out. I was reading it when it first came out. I got stuck in the middle, even though it's tiny little book, but I got stuck into it in the middle, and then and then had to put it down. And then this past year I was like, this is stupid. I need to read this because I read this in hardback. I mean, I bought this in hardback. And 2, it's an Akutagawa Prize winner. 3, this is like, I knew this would immediately get translated because just with what I read, it was like, this is like publisher catnip. It has everything a publisher wants. It has own voices story, disabled stories. It's written by a woman. It's an Akutagawa Prize winner. It's Japanese. Like publishers, this is their wet dream. This is the book they know that if they translate this, it's gonna be sold. There's no doubt. There's no like, oh, maybe no one's going to enjoy it. No one's gonna buy this. No, this is like a guarantee. And I knew all of you guys would read it when it would come out. And this is Hunchback, right? Hunchback, we all know. You guys, this has been out in English translation. You guys have all read this before me, or you've all finished the book before me. And at this point, it's just embarrassing because technically, I'm the person who introduces you to all the Akutagawa Prize. Like, you know, twice a year, I tell you, oh, these are the nominees, and this is who won, and I explain everything. And then you guys end up reading everything before me. So it's really annoying to me that I haven't read this. And here's the thing, I said, you know what, this is still not gonna happen. I actually put it back on my shelves. And then yesterday, I decided to walk into the bookstore, because I haven't been visiting Japanese bookstores because I've been diligent about the idea that, you know what, I am not reading in Japanese lately. I am not allowed to buy any books in Japanese because it's just going to be put on a pile. So I've been very good about not buying anything in Japanese this year, like super, super good, like so proud of myself. But I just went there to browse just to see like what's happening, what's new, like what is something I can maybe anticipate as something like maybe in the future, like, ooh, that sounds good. Maybe I need to pick up the pace so I can actually get to that. And when I got there, this was out in paperback. The paperback version just came out like yesterday, which is annoying. I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to like read this book before it came out into paperback, and I didn't manage to do that. So that's really, really embarrassing, very shameful on my part, very, very shameful. Very annoying. When did this come out? Like 2023, so 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago I bought this, and it's taken me 2 years to not finish this tiny 93-page book. I don't even have the book. I took it out. I took out the bookmark because I put it back on my shelves, and I was like, you know what? I'm taking out the bookmark. I'm putting it back on my shelves. I'm not going to read this. But you know what? No, I'm going to be stubborn and be like, screw that. I'm going to read this year. Because why? Not only did this book come out in paperback, her new book is out. She has a new book out, this author. Ichikawa Sao. She has a new book out. She did this on purpose just to annoy me, I'm sure. The new book out is called Onnanoko no Sebone. I don't know why my accent changed at the end there, but that can be translated 3 ways depending on how the book goes. It could be a woman's spine, the woman's spine, or it's probably going to be again another a book based more on her personal experiences. Ooh, that car alarm. I'm reaching the end of the video and couldn't be worse timing. But so I would probably translate it as my spine, just translate it as my spine, knowing that the protagonist is a woman. So yeah, this is going back on the pile of books that I want to complete this year. This is just ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. I can't with that book anymore. I just need to read it or like get rid of it entirely. And so that's everything everything that I was currently reading, put away, just everything. And then in terms of what I want to read before the end of the year, I don't really have a TBR or anything like that, but there's just one book that I know that I need to read because I've been reading one book every other month. So I need to read the next book in the Rougon-Macquart cycle, which is La Faute de l'Abbé Mouret. So yeah, this is the next book in that sequence. So La Reine Margot, I'm reading on PDF. I'm almost done with that one. Once I'm done with that, I can pull up the PDF for this one, and this will become my next at work read. These usually take about 3 weeks for me to read on PDF at work, so this will definitely get done by the end of the year. But this is definitely the one book that I haven't started yet, but I know is part of my end of the year TBR. So there you go. That is a lot of books. That is more, everything I introduce is definitely more than I can read by the end of the year, but we'll make something work. We will make progress. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you look forward to hearing me talk about some of the books. And definitely give me your words of encouragement and let me know what you will be reading, what you're trying to read before the end of the year yourself. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.